What I'm going to talk about today is something I have never really discussed with anyone in my life. I had a couple of friends that knew a little few bits and pieces about what happened to me, but no one knows the full story. This was in 2019. I was doing what I always do, talking to spirits and doing different ways to go outside myself and try and get information. Different things like muscle testing I had learned many years ago in the alternative health community. It is something alternative doctors and chiropractors do. They take a supplement or food or something, and they have different ways of testing it against a person to see if the body likes it or not. And what I used to do was called muscle testing. I used to hold a supplement in front of me, and my body would sway one way or the other to tell me if it liked it or not. And so that was my introduction to having a method of going outside of myself to get information. Over the years, I started to use this muscle testing for everything, what I should wear that day, what the weather was going to be, until I was just completely being controlled, letting my day be controlled, I should say, by my muscle testing. In the early 2019, weird stuff started to happen. I had a fifth wheel that I owned. I lived there for several years, and weird stuff started to happen. And I had a friend staying with me from out of town for a few months, and he also observed all of this weird stuff. I got pretty desperate. I found someone on YouTube that was a psychic, and I had been following her for a few years. And I had a session with her, and she told me there was some sort of dark energy in my trailer. She had me covering up all my mirrors, putting mirrors on the ceiling, the outside of my trailer. I did all of this stuff. And I thought it was weird at the time, but it did make things settle down. Things seemed to get back more or less to normal. So eventually I took, the coverings off the mirrors, and I took all the mirrors that we'd put on top of the trailer off, and life seemed to go on. But gradually over the months, some voice started to come into my head, a voice that I could no longer control. And it told me horrible things were going to happen. It told me there was going to be an apocalypse. Use that word probably because that was the word that I always thought of when I thought of disasters and future calamic things happening to the planet. Well, it said that all of the nuclear facilities would be melting down. Something was going to go on underground, and almost everyone on the planet was going to be dying. I was going to be living long enough to help others get some sort of facility put together to help protect people from all the radiation. And I was told to do a whole bunch of stuff. I thought I was going crazy. This is either I am going crazy or this is really happening. And I didn't know which was true at the time. And I started paying attention and doing all of this stuff that this voice started to tell me to do. I don't know why, but I just literally couldn't control myself and stop listening to it. And one of the things it told me to do was had to find a new property, place to live, get new facilities, hazmat suits, get all supplies in. So I started looking around for properties or places to go that might be safer, equipment, etc., etc. In the meantime, I was also told to get rid of my possessions. And I literally went into my closet and took out most of my clothes, thousands and thousands of dollars of jewelry. I used to sell silver and gemstone. I took it out, not everything, all of my photo albums, anything, lifelong mementos, everything. I started putting it into trash bags, and I put it outside my trailer. And outside my trailer was full of trash bags. It was so weird that my neighbor said to me, "What are you doing with all of those bags outside your trailer?" And I didn't want her to know I was throwing my stuff out because I knew how crazy that sounded. So I told her I was just putting some stuff into storage. I didn't want to throw all the bags into the dumpster at once because that would be obvious. So each day I took 1 or 2 bags down and got rid of my stuff. And when I say thousands of dollars, I used to sell silver and gemstone and family jewelry, and I threw it out. So I was getting worse and worse. I was going downhill rapidly. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't socialize. I didn't know what to do anymore. And I didn't think I was going to make it very much longer. I was thinking of doing something pretty radical to end things. Last minute, I decided to phone an old friend of mine. She had been my animal communicator when I had a lot of animals in California. And I knew she could talk to them, and I knew she could talk to spirits. And I told her what had been happening to me. And somehow she was able to talk me off the ledge, almost literally. And I was able to get control of my mind again and put my life back together. It took months for this to happen. One other thing I want to mention is this entity told me in the fall of 2019 that the world was going to be shut down, and it had something to do with China. And at the time, I no longer believed hardly anything the entity was telling me, so I just didn't pay it much attention. And then literally within a few months later, I heard about, Wuhan and the virus from China, et cetera, and I went, well, they did tell me the truth about that. I had a very dark period, and there was a lesson to be learned. This lesson was, don't go outside of yourself looking for answers. Every F-up in my life, every really stupid, ridiculous, dark, unnecessary time, including 30 years in a cult, was because I wanted answers, and I didn't know that I could go inside and get them. I thought they were all outside of me. So that is the lesson. No matter how bad things get, look inside yourself for the answers, not outside.